Back in 1995, a graphic design instructor named Lynda Weinman, who also had entrepreneurial ambitions, decided to launch a website called lynda.com. At first, her idea wasn't about building a big company. She simply wanted a space where she could experiment with the latest digital design tools that were emerging at the time, programs like Photoshop, Illustrator, and others. She also needed a platform to showcase her students' work, so they could learn from each other. That small step turned into something much bigger. By 2002, Lynda realized the website could become a full online learning hub, so she shifted her entire teaching model to the internet. Years later, her company was acquired by LinkedIn for $1.5 billion and rebranded as LinkedIn Learning. Lynda's story is a perfect example of what I like to call counterconventional mindsets, ways of thinking entrepreneurs use that don't always follow the traditional rules. Today, I'm going to walk you through 6 of these mindsets. So, why do I call them counterconventional? Because they go against what's usually taught in business schools or practiced in large corporations. They challenge ideas about risk, marketing, and strategy, and often flip best practices upside down. But before I get into them, let's clarify, what exactly is a mindset? A mindset is basically the way we think, react, and approach challenges. It's the lens through which we see opportunities and make decisions. And for entrepreneurs, opportunities are everything. Now let's dive into the 6. The first mindset is something I call, yes, we can. If you've ever taken a strategy class in business school, you've probably heard about sticking to your core competencies. Companies are told to focus only on what they do best and refine that. So, if a client asks for something outside of that area, the standard answer is usually, no, that's not what we do. But entrepreneurs often flip this around. Take the case of Brazilian entrepreneur Arnold Correa, who built what is now known as Atmo Digital. He had already reinvented his business multiple times when a client approached him with a new idea, installing satellite-link TVs across hundreds of stores to broadcast training and motivational sessions. Even though Arnold had zero experience with satellite tech and never operated outside his home base in Sao Paulo, his response was, yes, we can do that. And he pulled it off. Later, when Walmart suggested putting those screens on the sales floor to display advertising, Arnold said yes again. Over the years, he transformed his company 4 different times simply by saying yes to new challenges outside his comfort zone. The second mindset is problem first, not product first. Large companies often obsess over products, tweaking, rebranding, and repackaging. For example, Tide keeps changing its formula, swapping blue speckles for green ones and calling it new and improved. Coca-Cola has gone through classic, new, diet, zero, cherry, vanilla, you name it. But is that really innovation? Entrepreneurs, on the other hand, start with problems. Jonathan Thorne is a great example. He created a new alloy that solved a frustrating issue with surgical forceps. They often stuck to human tissue. At first, he marketed to plastic surgeons, but growth was slow. Then he realized neurosurgeons, who operate on the brain and spine, faced an even bigger problem with sticky tools. His innovation offered them a safer, faster solution. Eventually, Thorne's company was sold to Stryker, and both he and his investors profited handsomely. The key wasn't obsessing over the product itself, it was solving the right problem. The third mindset is think narrow, not broad. Big companies typically chase large markets because they want big numbers, but entrepreneurs often start small and focused. Consider Phil Knight and Bill Bowerman, the founders of Nike. They didn't set out to dominate the entire footwear industry. They started by solving a problem for a very niche group, distance runners. At the time, most shoes were designed for sprinters on smooth tracks, but long-distance runners trained on rough paths and got constant injuries. Knight and Bowerman designed shoes with better stability, cushioning, and lighter weight, all tailored to elite distance runners. Once they mastered this niche, they expanded into tennis, basketball, and eventually every sport imaginable. Today, Nike is the global leader in athletic wear, but it all started with solving a narrow problem for a small group of people. The fourth mindset is ask for the cash, ride the float. Large corporations are flush with money, and sometimes they don't even know what to do with it, spending billions on stock buybacks instead of real innovation. But for startups, cash is everything. Elon Musk and the early Tesla team understood this well. Instead of waiting years to raise huge capital, they pre-sold cars. They invited wealthy, eco-conscious people to their events and convinced them to put down $100,000 each for the Roadster before the first car was even built. That gave Tesla $10 million up front. Years later, when they announced the Model 3, nearly 500,000 people placed $1,000 deposits each, giving Tesla $500 million in cash before production even started. That model of securing customer money early kept Tesla alive and growing. The fifth mindset is beg, borrow, but don't steal. In business school, we're taught to analyze investments by calculating returns and weighing risk, but entrepreneurs often find creative ways to reduce upfront costs by using what already exists. Tristram and Rebecca Mayhew, who launched Go Ape in the UK, wanted to build treetop adventure parks. The question was, where would they get land and trees? Instead of buying property, they approached the UK Forestry Commission, which owned forests and wanted to attract more visitors. The Mayhews proposed building their adventure courses on commission land in exchange for a long-term exclusive deal. They essentially borrowed everything they needed, trees, land, parking lots, while only supplying the adventure equipment. Today, Go Ape has dozens of sites in the UK and the US, all thanks to resourcefulness rather than massive investment. The sixth mindset is don't wait for permission. In large organizations, every new idea goes through layers of legal checks and compliance reviews. It's slow and often ends in a no. But entrepreneurs frequently push ahead without asking first. Uber's founders, Travis Kalanick and Garrett Camp, are the classic example. If they had asked regulators for permission to start a taxi service without owning taxis, they would have been rejected immediately. Instead, they launched and dealt with regulations later. Now, while Uber has been criticized for unethical practices, the bigger lesson here is that entrepreneurs act when rules haven't yet caught up to technology. So let's wrap this up with a few questions for you. Which of these 6 mindsets do you already practice today? Which ones could you learn and add to your toolkit? Can you teach any of these to someone you work with? And most importantly, is there a challenge you're facing right now that one or more of these mindsets could help you overcome? Those are 6 unconventional ways of thinking, 6 rule-breaking approaches that can help ordinary people, maybe even you, change the world.